AxeGov News, where we chop down corruption to help save America. Lately, the news seems to be focused on the efforts to save America from ISIS. The problem is, there are far greater threats to America than ISIS that are now being ignored. One of them comes from a little man on the other side of the planet known as Kim Jong Un. Before I get into the threat part, let's get to know Kim Jong Un first. For those who haven't heard of him, Kim Jong Un is the leader of North Korea. He's a short guy with a bad haircut who could be seen doing things like participating in huge parades in his honor, riding large horses, or launching big missiles into the sky. It almost makes you wonder if the little guy isn't compensating for something. You know what I mean? I also suspect Kim Jong Un might be, shall we say, chromatically challenged, because the guy's entire wardrobe is either black or dark gray, kind of lacking in color just a bit. For all of his problems, the one thing Kim Jong Un does have going for him is that he's the absolute dictator of North Korea. Although he was born in 1983, he could have starred in Orwell's 1984 novel. But instead of Big Brother, he prefers the title of Dear Leader. Like Big Brother from 1984, Kim Jong Un is into propaganda, fear-mongering, militarization, and expecting total obedience from his people. Influence from the world outside of North Korea is very limited. Bringing in items that encourage free thinking can get a person sent to a hard labor camp or sentenced to death. Like Big Brother, Dear Leader has his likeness plastered all over the country, and he expects the people to give him a godlike level of respect. Or else. Speaking of God, don't expect to attend church in North Korea. Kim Jong Un hates Christians like Adolf Hitler hated Jews. If you're caught being a Christian in North Korea, if you're lucky, you might be sent to a hard labor camp. But usually, you're executed, sometimes on the spot the moment your Christianity is discovered. Also, the punishment for Christianity in North Korea goes beyond the death of the offending Christian. Up to 3 generations of their family will be sent to hard labor camps as well, even if they did nothing wrong. Even if you're not a Christian, it doesn't matter. He hates all other religions too. Unless you count worshipping Kim Jong Un as a religion. Also, you don't have to be a religious worshiper to incur his wrath. Petty crimes, including stealing food and doing everyday things, like using a cell phone, have gotten people executed. According to Fox News, in 2013, Kim Jong Un had 80 people across 7 cities executed in one day for an assortment of quote-unquote crimes, including trafficking South Korean videos, possessing a Bible, or sexual misconduct. And they weren't just killed. In the city of Wonsan, at Shinpung Stadium, 8 of them were tied to stakes to stadium, then machine gunned, not just to death, but overkilled and mutilated by excessive gunfire almost beyond recognition. But even that wasn't enough for Kim Jong Un. Before the execution, a crowd of 10,000 people was forced to attend and watch this horrific massacre. Children were forced to watch this atrocity. And for the coup de grace, the relatives of the victims were sent to prison camps. All of this just to make a gruesome point. That to defy Kim Jong Un is to invite certain death. Kim Jong Un's inhumane cruelty isn't just limited to the general populace either. According to Hong Kong-based newspaper Wenwei Po, Kim's uncle and former second-in-command, Jang Song-thaek, was accused of trying to overthrow the government. Kim had Uncle Jang Song stripped naked Then he and 5 of his closest aides were thrown into a cage and eaten alive by 120 hunting dogs that were starved for 5 days. Kim Jong Un and 300 other officials watched this gruesome affair for over an hour while the starving dogs killed, then ate his own uncle and the 5 aides. This is Kim's own family member we're talking about here. Not surprisingly, Kim Jong Un's cruelty isn't limited to his own family. Remember how Hitler wanted to create a race of supposedly pure people known as the Aryan race? If you're a pregnant North Korean woman, and the North Korean government suspects the father is Chinese or from some other non-Korean nation, the unborn baby is regarded as being impure by the North Korean government's standards. The mother is forced to either have an abortion or, this is hard to say, the mother is forced to grab their own newborn baby, submerge the baby underwater, and murder their own baby by drowning the baby to death. Forgive me, but I need to take a moment to address Kim Jong Un personally at this time. Kim Jong Un, you've turned your country into a nation of mindless human slaves that have been programmed from birth with fear and obedience to you on threat of death and imprisonment. You are a power-mongering madman, an incarnation of evil itself, and an absolute monster. You fancy yourself a god, but that's a lie you tell yourself at night, so you don't piss your pants in your sleep. Because the truth is, you're afraid. Afraid that someday, someone will decide they've had enough and end your pathetic existence, even if it means their own death to do it. You live in fear of it 24/7. Even if that doesn't happen, you will die someday. And the end of your life is the beginning of your punishment in the afterlife, which is what you fear most of all. Sure, you pretend God isn't real, but you know otherwise. It's why you won't allow Christianity in your country, because you fear God's power and influence. And if you know there's a God, you also know there's a devil. I don't know exactly what's in store for you in the afterlife, but unless you do a serious moral U-turn, the suffering that awaits you from Satan's minions will be unimaginable, as you get to relive all of the suffering you have ever inflicted on every single person who ever suffered at your hands. You'll get to experience all of that suffering, all at once, all the time, without end, forever. Enjoy eternity as Satan's personal man-whore, you sick, sadistic bastard. My apologies for that, America. I just had to get that off my chest. All of this brings us to the point of this show. Kim Jong Un is a threat, not only to his own people, but to the United States of America as well. For starters, according to a 2012 Gallup poll, our nation is 77% Christian, and we know how much Kim Jong Un loves Christianity. Maybe that's why he has declared nuclear war on the U.S. on multiple occasions. Let me repeat that. Not just war, nuclear war. While North Korea does not yet have the ability to send a nuclear warhead to the U.S., they have been working tirelessly towards that goal, performing various tests for years, including missile launches, in the direction of the USA. Folks, it's not just a question of if they will have the ability to nuke us, but when. Despite this deeply disturbing eventuality, the U.S. government has done very little to stop it. Yes, we've imposed just about every sanction under the sun to try and persuade them to stop their nuclear program, but North Korea simply doesn't care. Worse, we've resorted to appeasement, and we are trying to offer foreign aid in exchange for Kim Jong Un's promise to give up his nuclear weapons program. It won't be the first time. We've already catered to North Korea in the past. According to a report on the Federation of American Scientists website, between 1995 and 2008, we provided them with over $1.3 billion in foreign aid. That's your tax dollars, folks. And Obama would consider resuming that aid to North Korea if only they will dismantle their nukes. America, North Korea has never proven to be trustworthy. So I wouldn't put it past these guys to hide their nukes for a while, take all the foreign aid they can get, and bring out the nukes the next day. Like Hitler, Kim Jong Un will probably only be stopped by force. The problem is, an attack against North Korea may be opposed by China, and we will end up in a situation akin to the Korean War. So we needed to take a slightly different approach this time. Here's how we can solve this problem. The US needs to sit down with South Korea and China. We make a deal as follows. If China will form a military alliance to help us take down North Korea, then North Korea will be equally divided at the end of the war between South Korea and China. As part of the deal, China would have to allow for free travel between their portion of North Korea and the rest of Korea, and also would have to agree to officially allow Taiwan to be an independent nation and cease claim to the Senkaku Islands, control of which is currently disputed with Japan. These things would improve political stability in the region. Although North Korea has a considerable military, their technology is far behind that of the US, and China has far more resources at their disposal than North Korea does. If we're lucky, faced with such overwhelming military might, Kim Jong Un might even be willing to surrender in exchange for his life and freedom. Much as it would be disgusting to see him escape justice, it would save many lives. But realistically, we will probably have to fight. I know it's a lot to take in, but this plan is plausible and is a winning situation for everyone involved. Except for Kim Jong Un, of course. The US stops the North Korean nuclear threat. South Korea reunites with half of North Korea, and they gain access to the other half. China gets a nice chunk of territory, and while they won't admit it, I'll wager China will feel far better about having the South Korean government for a neighbor instead of a sociopathic madman. The people of North Korea win too. The part that will be under South Korea's rule will obviously be better off than being under Kim Jong Un's rule. And while China isn't exactly a champion of human rights, even their rule will allow for far more freedom than living under Kim Jong Un would. Obviously, this will not be easy. Even given such a powerful alliance, many lives will be lost on all sides trying to take down North Korea. Many people will not want to see this happen. Personally, I am certainly not one to suggest the US go to war without a dang good reason for doing so. But, if we don't fight them, they will get nuclear weapons. They will use those nuclear weapons to blow America to hell. We cannot use a wait-and-see approach and simply hope the threat of mutual annihilation is enough to deter Kim Jong Un. Because it probably won't be. This guy is a homicidal sociopath. He does not care about his people's lives. And his hatred for the USA may very well outweigh his sense of self-preservation. I'm sure some of you are wondering, what can we do if China opposes a US strike on North Korea anyways and refuses to make a deal? Folks, I hate to even consider this option, but as an absolute last resort, if there is no other way to stop Kim Jong Un, then we simply beat him to it and nuke North Korea first. before they nuke the US. Yes, I know, that is a terrible thought. But if we wait, then he will nuke the USA, which will result in us nuking North Korea anyways. So why wait until he destroys a large portion of our country when we can stop him before that happens? Congress, Obama, diplomacy isn't cutting it here. Stop embarrassing our country by bowing down to Kim Jong Un and laying offers of foreign aid at his feet in order to bribe him into not nuking us. Kim Jong Un needs to be stopped ASAP. Do not treat this as you do so many other problems and just hope that nothing bad happens. Because it will. This menace needs to be put down hard. Remember, there's far more at stake here for you than just your political careers. Your lives and the lives of America are all on the line. Don't screw it up. Thank you, America, for watching AxeGov News. Please subscribe to AxeGov on YouTube and join us in the future for more episodes as we keep chopping down corruption to help save America. Until then, have a great day and farewell.